What is up, guys? Media Master Menard here today, bringing you guys another video. I just got back from Avengers Endgame and wanted to make this review as soon as I could. I apologize, it's a little late at night, so I could sound a little tired, but please bear with me. I wanted to get this review out as fast as possible. And so let's jump right into what I thought about the movie. And so the movie starts off and basically, you get to see how Hawkeye has been affected by the actions of Thanos and what happens to him right after Thanos snaps his fingers. And we get to see that there are real repercussions for all of the characters in this show. And we get to see Captain Marvel does not waste any time showing up right at the beginning. And she kind of saves Tony Stark from just floating in space. And here's where my theater experience actually got quite a bit interesting. So actually the theater I was in had terrible sound quality. I'm not sure what was going on. So basically there was no surround sound at all. All the sound was coming from the front of the theater and everyone's voice was super muffled. So I did have to leave the theater to go try to talk to someone and get that fixed because I couldn't even hear the words that were happening. I figured someone's got to do it. Usually I'm not the type of person who would go, but I couldn't even understand people's voices over the sound of me chewing my own popcorn. So yeah, that was kind of not the greatest note to start off on for this movie, but I think the movie made up for it for the most part. I thought it was a really great movie. Overall, I'm not going to go any more into the plot because pretty much everything is spoilers, but let's just say there's a pretty major time skip at the beginning of this film. And so basically the whole beginning is focusing on how are people affected by the actions of Thanos. And I thought they do a really good job of showing that everybody has had different reactions. We get to see Iron Man, we get to see Tony Stark. I mean, he's happy, he's got a family, he's got a daughter, and he kind of is like, hey, we got lucky. I don't really mind it too much. It's not the worst thing in the world for me, but at the same time, he does know in the back of his head some people weren't so lucky, and we get to see interactions between Black Widow and Steve Rogers, and we get to see it's really, really cool because I thought they did a great job of adding this subtlety in, and both of them kind of question, I mean, what are we doing right now? We're not really doing anything. We're not dealing with any problems, and maybe Thanos was right. There are less problems in the world right now. There's less pollution. The oceans are cleaner. I thought that was a very interesting little tidbit they kind of added into the beginning of this movie, kind of showing where everyone was at and seeing that some people actually are in a better place because of Thanos, giving a little more credence to his goal in Avengers Infinity War. Another subtlety that this story handled really well at the beginning was time travel. I thought they kind of explored the positives and negatives to time travel and what the repercussions were going to be, and Tony really deliberates it a lot of, hey, is this going to be worth it? Are we going to affect the future? But I do think the story went a little wrong with how its time travel mechanics work, because I mean, it was extremely confusing how like the time travel would affect the future and the past in this movie. It really didn't make much sense at all, to be honest, and I usually can make pretty good sense of time travel plots, but it kind of was, it wasn't rushed. It just didn't really make much sense how, I guess, taking Infinity Stones is going to alter the time continuum by making a stem branch off of it. It didn't make much sense, guys, the time travel thing. You understood what they were trying to do, but then they kind of had these little tangents on the side that were like, I'm not really sure what's going on. But overall, I think we all knew what the story was going to be. How are they going to take down Thanos? And they did a really good job for the most part, besides that little bit of time travel tripping over themselves, of making this a very, very engrossing film. The only other thing I will say is that after getting to the, I guess, final act of the movie, it seemed like the first two acts of the movie maybe weren't as necessary as they made it seem, I guess. At the time it seemed necessary, but then you get to the third act and it's like, I don't know how necessary this was actually, and I think that it was just a little too long, the movie. I think when you get to that third act, when the second act and the first act kind of feel like, hey, why did we have all of this? Then the movie feels too long once you get to the third act, but before that it feels fine. I just think there's kind of this moment where you're like, this movie didn't necessarily need to be a full 3 hours, in my opinion. As usual, I gotta give my thoughts on the Marvel comedy for this film, and I do think that they were a little too unserious at a little too many times in this movie. I know I sound like a broken record when I talk about Marvel because I say this almost every single movie, but it just still, you think this movie would be super serious. It's the final showdown with Thanos, and it's okay to have some funny moments, but I mean, they were just shooting for funny moment after funny moment. I know it's going to be fun, and I sound hypocritical because I said Shazam was such a fun movie, but it just seemed like it was such a shift from, I guess, serious to not serious, a little too icky-jerky sometimes in this movie, but it wasn't a big deal as usual. I mean, if they didn't land, they didn't land, and it was just kind of cheesy Marvel stuff like we expect and we've come to love. As far as the acting goes, I thought it was pretty good in this movie, actually. They did a really good job showing more subtle signs, like I mentioned earlier, and kind of just little things here and there that I thought were very, very well acted. I mean, these guys are seasoned vets at this point, but they're kind of bringing a little different of a tone to this movie. I thought that was a really good job on their behalf. Some of the characters or random things I liked in this movie were kind of Bruce Banner has like this human Hulk that he was. I thought that was a really neat aspect of this movie. He was kind of like this big human Hulk. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it but that, guys. They brought back the Rock dude from Thor Ragnarok. That was like one of my favorite characters in the Marvel Universe. Even though it was just really a cameo, I thought that was really cool. One thing that I have to say is they gave a shout out to my girl, Natalie Portman. I don't know if that was CGI rendering of her in there or if it was just a quick cameo, but I'm glad they kind of put her in there and acknowledged her existence in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I thought that was a nice little touch. Some cinematography or just great film work that I thought I saw throughout this movie. I think the really coolest part about it was when you got to see them go back in time to places or things that have previously happened in the Marvel Universe, and you get to see them kind of from a third-person time traveler's perspective. And boy, I thought that was really neat. I know that sounds dumb to say neat, but it was super interesting, this different point of view. And I thought it was very, very, very well done film work to kind of make it feel like those original scenes, but also adding new stuff around those scenes that we didn't see before while staying true to kind of the vibe of those scenes. So, I mean, that was something that I really wasn't expecting in this movie. I didn't even really know time travel was going to be this big of a component. I didn't watch any of the trailers before going into this movie. I went in blind, so I thought that was a really, really good job. One minor complaint about this movie that I have is that the power scaling just really didn't make much sense. I mean, there's a time where Captain Marvel, she's fighting Thanos, and he has no Infinity Stones, and she's kind of getting her butt kicked, and then he puts the gauntlet on, and then she grabs it and doesn't let him activate it. That's where I'm just like, what's going on? Because I just feel like from seeing, I guess, the gang of fighters take off basically the gauntlet at the end of Infinity War, I mean, I feel like after seeing Captain Marvel's strength, she should be able to pulverize Thanos without any Infinity Stones, but I mean, the power scaling in the Marvel Universe has never really been well done. It seems like they just wanted to make Thanos almighty no matter what, even if he didn't have the gauntlet. I don't know, it's really kind of hard to describe, but if you watch the movie, you kind of know what I'm saying, I think. I think everyone kind of got that vibe. One other nitpicky thing is the voice replication, or whatever you want to call it, the voice mimicry of trying to be Hugo Weaving for the Red Skull was not as good in this movie as it was in Infinity War. I think that might have to do with, he had a few more lines in this one, so I think that has something to do with it. Obviously, it's not the same voice actor, and they're using other techniques to make it sound the same, but that shouldn't be a problem anymore. Let's just put it that way. And I think one thing that was a little frustrating, but honestly understandable, and I'm not going to dock the movie for this, is the fact that there was just so many different characters. I mean, some people seem like cameo characters who have been like super important Avengers. There's not much they could do about that. I think they did the best job they could for how many characters they were able to fit into this movie and kind of give each character their own little part. So I mean, I'm going to give them props where it's deserved. They did a really good job incorporating this many people into one single movie. And one last thing I'm going to praise was the ending of this movie. I thought it was really a perfect way to wrap up the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this phase of it, I guess. It was very sad and touching, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it was very sad and touching. I thought it was really emotional. And they did a really good job of making you feel like you've been from the beginning to the end of a journey with these characters. They don't really give any kind of hint of where they're going in the future, so I'm very curious to see how Marvel kind of takes things going forward. I know there's Disney Plus. They're going to be trying to integrate a lot of those characters into their own TV series, which I think TV is kind of a better medium for world building, etc. But let's not get into that in this video. But I think that will be really interesting to see how they go forward in the future and how this kind of hard reset, it's not really a hard reset, but this, let's call it a pseudo reset, how it affects Marvel going forward and what their overarching scheme is going to be in the future. But overall, I thought it was a great movie, guys. Definitely worth your time, even though it's going to take up a lot of your time. That 3 hours does run a little bit too long, but obviously this is going to smash box offices. It's going to make a ton of money, so I'm sure a lot of you guys have already gone out and seen the movie. And if you have, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Tell me if you like the movie, dislike the movie. If you haven't seen it yet, are you excited to go see it? Like I said, let me know all those things. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Maybe bringing you guys more movies, TV, video game, and anime content. I'm going to leave a link to my Twitch and my Twitter in the description below so you can find out when I go live streaming or when I post a video. And until then, this is Master Menard, signing off.
Now look at the top, I'm going crazy, who wearing the crown? Scootly bop, doodly bolly, doodly down.